This video is made for adult collectors because this toy is chonky.
Rhinox! Cheetor! Maximize!
Just a little aside before I start the actual video itself, I do know that the chest is on backwards before anyone decides to comment that. I know, but it's like that throughout the whole video, so pain. I make mistakes sometimes, I'm human, sorry. This figure is not explicitly stated anywhere as being a leader class, but in everything but name, it is. Leaders used to be big, chunky toys that had gimmicks, cool transformations, clicky ratchets, and were big. I know I said big already, but they were big. And this is basically all that. Leaders went from being all that and having lights and sounds to just being all that. And this is more or less the latter type of leader, but it's around the same size, heft, clickiness, and packed with tons of play features as those old toys. And that's not saying new leaders are bad. They aren't. They feel a lot more refined now and are still fun, but me personally, I will always prefer the ones that look like this. Big, huge, chunky things with gimmicks. I'm so glad Primal got the treatment. And now Scourge and Optimus, please, and thank you. I beg, please. This Primal, like I said, is rather big. Like, he fits with the same or similar size to post-Dark of the Moon leaders and really fits on my leader class shelf right at the very end there. I love that. I adore the heft and the feel of the plastic, the accessories, the play features. It even comes in an old leader box. All of that for just $5 more than a regular leader now. Which, I don't know how they did that, but that's honestly not bad. You get a lot of toy for your money. My dog is barking. And they didn't skimp out on the details. There's a lot of nice sculpted detail on this guy, and you never get bored looking at all the lines, the bits of fur, the mechanical dark gunmetal gray parts throughout this guy. He is more of a boring gray and black color scheme though, but the way they've distributed those colors makes it seem less plain to me. I'm not the biggest fan of these 5mm ports just sticking straight out of the arms, but the reason is they couldn't drill into the arms because there's springs in there. It's very hard to convey this toy's hand feel because I can't think of anything to compare it to other than Legacy Armada Prime. Both those toys just feel excellent. He does come with some stuff, 2 swords that can be held individually or together, though I wish they sat in the hands better. These Kingdom Rodimus upscaled hands. Yeah, they're just Kingdom Rodimus's hands with a couple of small differences, but hey, they work pretty okay, so I ain't mad. And he comes with missiles. What? Firing missiles on a 2023 toy? Yes, please. So you have to do a lot of unfolding and transforming on the back to flip the cannons out, which can be a little bit annoying, but you got these 2 shoulder rockets, and you slip the missiles in and push back on them, and they shoot. They are friction fire missiles, so they don't fire super far, and I'm not the biggest fan of that, but I'm just glad that they're included. It's a shame, though, that the missiles barely fit into the cannons when they're stored up, and they clash with the waist, and you end up bending them slightly, so I just leave them in the box. He is covered in 5mm ports too, so you can weaponize him like crazy. One other cool thing about this Primal is his posing. Just like the mainline one, he can do some crazy and cool stuff. So there are 2 gimmicks I forgot to show off, and I'm going to show them off now because they're really cool. Number 1, you press this little button on the bottom of his arm. If I can find it, there it is. And it springs up this. Spring-loaded arm cannons. That's really cool to see in 2023. Look at that. It's really fun to do. And then the second gimmick is you have the face changing gimmick, which is your standard flip up, fold around. Ooh, I have a mouth now and it looks ugly, so I'm going to go back to the faceplate because I prefer this look. Anyways, articulation. He's quite packed with it. You got the head is on a... Oh, See, this likes to come up and down every once in a while, the faceplate gimmick, but the head is on a ball joint, and there's this transformation hinge that you can flick up to get him to look even further up if you want to. Arms can do a full 360, shoulder pads can move so the arms can go out that far. You have bicep rotation, single jointed elbow that bends all the way, wrist rotation, a wrist hinge in and out, dedicated hinge, and then the 3-finger trigger finger split. But my favorite thing is the actual dedicated butterfly joints. They're not the most, they don't have the most range, but they're there. And that's very, very cool. He does have a waist joint, so you can do full 360 degrees. This butt flap can move out of the way. That's where I like to put it, because it just kind of gets it out of the way of view from down here, because then that just looks weird to me, so I do that. Legs ratchet forward, they ratchet back. Very nice ratchets. They go in and out about that far. You have an upper thigh swivel and then a lower thigh swivel. Ratcheted knees. Again, it sounds and feels nice. And then you have ankle tilt, really deep ankle tilt. And then if you unclip this, you have a little bit of a loose, but you have a toe bend, which you have seen in some poses throughout this video. So he is super duper posable for something this size and this chunky and this sort of gimmicky. And oh man, please make more of this. So Robot Monkey is fantastic, but for something as round and hardly any visible folding panels, how's that transformation? Now, if you've transformed the mainline Voyager, this is basically the same with some extra steps involved and one step removed, which I'm not the biggest fan of. But to start with, you're just gonna fold the shoulder pads down, ball up the fists like that, and then the arms are pretty much ready to go. We'll rotate the waist 180 degrees and fold up the robot toes. Now we'll work on the back. This is the part that changes the most from the mainline toy. Because the mainline, you would just open the chest, pull the thing out, rotate the head, and then fold it up in a different orientation and just rotate this around. It is different here. You open the chest up and rotate the chest, then you open the back section up all the way, as far as it'll go. Pull this out. First, make sure it gets around all this. There you go. Collapse it back in, snap the head down, and then fold it back over. Take this section, unpeg it, rotate it, and then bring it out. Close up the chest, revealing new chest detail. Bend this down, peg the new crotch plate in, fold that up, and just straighten everything out till you have Monkey. Monkey. It's a cool looking monkey. That's a nice monkey mode. It transforms a lot like the mainline Voyager, but the way the colors are done on the back end and the way the panel is, it looks a lot cleaner. It also helps that due to the way the back transformed, there's more room to add more plastic to make the panel larger and fit around the legs more, to cover them, to make it all look like it's one cohesive back end rather than it just being legs hanging out the back. My only gripe is how limited the monkey head is. I wish it could pull forward a bit to allow for some side-to-side motion. That extra wrist joint really does help him look more like he did in the film and the way he had his arms all the time. It's just a much nicer monkey mode over the mainline Voyager, which I did like a lot, but this just knocks it out of the water. Of course I recommend it. Sure, I have a couple small issues with it, but as a whole, it's leader class the way it used to be for me, only for $5 more than a modern leader, which is well worth it in my books. It's available almost everywhere at the moment that isn't a retail store, but I do wish it got a retail release all over the world, maybe in Buzzworthy or something at some point, because it's fire, and I think more people need to be able to have access to it. And if you're scared to pay shipping, just put it in Toys R Us and Target or something like that. But that's my look at Takara's Leader Primal, whatever class Primal this is. I don't know, it doesn't even say on the box. Follow me on Twitter and Instagram, and I'll see you next time. Bye-bye.